Prepare to journey back through time in this episode of Rock and Roll Flashback podcasts with your host, Jumpin John McDermott.
Greetings, time travelers, and welcome to Rock and Roll Flashback. I'm Jumpin John, and I'm calling this podcast Led Zeppelin Part 1. I plan to highlight the first 6.5 years of Led Zeppelin, a group that I consider to be one of the greatest bands in rock and roll history. Be sure to check out our companion podcast, Led Zeppelin Part 2, where I will discuss the last 6 years that the band was active, as well as a few of their numerous awards and honors. In Rock and Roll Flashback podcast episode number 35, I reviewed a band called the Yardbirds. Near the end of that podcast, I mentioned that talented guitarist Jimmy Page transitioned that band into what was going to be called the New Yardbirds. The remaining Yardbirds had been exhausted by heavy touring and were disappointed by a lack of recent chart success. They broke up after a July 1968 gig in Luton, Bedfordshire. The Yardbirds' manager at that time, Peter Grant, encouraged Jimmy Page to form his own band. Before he joined the Yardbirds, Jimmy Page had been a prominent session guitarist. On some weeks, he ended up playing at least 3 sessions a day, 6 days a week. Through his contacts with record producer Shel Talmy, he secured session work on songs for The Who and The Kinks. Page's studio gigs in 1964 and 1965 included Marianne Faithfull's As Tears Go By, Jonathan King's Everyone's Gone to the Moon, the Nashville Teens' Tobacco Road, the Rolling Stones' Heart of Stone, and We're Wasting Time, Shirley Bassey's Goldfinger, Petula Clark's Downtown, and several others. The session work and studio discipline proved to be invaluable to Jimmy and paid off when he began producing Led Zeppelin records. Also beginning in 1964, John Baldwin began studio session work with Decca Records. From then until 1968, he played on hundreds of recording sessions. He soon expanded his studio work by playing keyboards, arranging, and undertaking general studio direction, resulting in his services coming under much demand. Some of the numerous artists he worked with included the Rolling Stones, Herman's Hermits, Donovan, Jeff Beck, Francoise Hardy, Cat Stevens, Rod Stewart, Shirley Bassey, Lulu, Dusty Springfield, and numerous others. John also played bass for Dusty Springfield's Talk of the Town series of performances. His string arrangement is heard on She's a Rainbow on the Rolling Stones' Their Satanic Majesty's Request album. In addition to contributing to Donovan's Hurdy-Gurdy Man and Mellow Yellow, Baldwin's arranging and playing on Donovan's Sunshine Superman got the attention of producer Mickey Most. Most used John as arranger for projects with Tom Jones, Wayne Fontana, the Walker Brothers, and many others. In 1967, Mickey Most, as music supervisor, hired Baldwin to arrange the music for Herman's Hermits' theatrical film, Mrs. Brown, You've Got a Lovely Daughter. It was during this time as a studio musician that Baldwin decided to take the stage name of John Paul Jones. John Paul Jones knew Jimmy Page from prior recording sessions. In 1968, at the urging of his wife, Jones contacted Page to see if he needed a bass player. Jimmy Page jumped at the chance of adding John Paul Jones to the new band. With Jones on board to play bass and keyboards, Jimmy Page and Peter Grant went to Birmingham to check out a band called Hobbs Tweedle. They were greatly impressed by lead singer Robert Plant's voice. Page invited Plant to London to join the new band, and Plant suggested that Page contact an old bandmate of his from the Band of Joy, drummer John Bonzo Bonham. After some coaxing, Bonham agreed to join. From the very beginning, Jimmy Page had a very specific idea in mind as to what he wanted the new band to be. He wanted the band to be a marriage of blues, hard rock, and acoustic music topped with heavy choruses and lots of light and shade in the music. In the ensuing years, Jimmy Page would receive credit for the unique innovations in sound recording that he brought to the studio. For contractual reasons, the four-man band was initially called the New Yardbirds. On August 12, 1968, John Bonham, John Paul Jones, Jimmy Page, and Robert Plant got together in a small basement room on Gerrard Street in London for the first time for a rehearsal. The first song they played was Train Kept A-Rollin'. They quickly realized that they had a powerful, cohesive band and were excited at how good they sounded together. After that enthusiastic rehearsal in the West End of London, the band embarked on a 10-day tour of Scandinavia in September 1968. This new band played with an exuberance, yet stayed in control. They were talented, confident, and cocky. In September and October 1968, at Olympic Studios in London, the band started recording. They recorded a mix of original material worked out in the first rehearsals and remakes and rearrangements of contemporary blues and folk songs. The sessions took place before the group had secured a recording contract and totaled 36 hours. Jimmy Page and the band's manager, Peter Grant, paid for the sessions, which were produced by Page. The tracks were mixed by Glenn Johns. On October 15, 1968, the band made their UK performance debut at Surrey University under their new name, Led Zeppelin. The band's name was apparently derived from a prediction by either The Who's Keith Moon or John Entwistle that the new band would go down like a lead balloon. In November, at the recommendation of Jones's friend Dusty Springfield, Atlantic record executives signed Led Zeppelin without ever having seen them. On December 26, 1968, Led Zeppelin played their first American show in Boston. On January 12, 1969, their debut album, simply called Led Zeppelin, was released in the U.S. during the tour. Almost immediately, the band's innovative, dynamic new sound created an electrifying excitement. This new band was the real deal. Flamboyant singer Robert Plant's voice ranged from controlled shrieks to plaintive moans and back again. Plant also contributed harmonica on the song You Shook Me. Jimmy Page's distorted guitar alternated between lightning licks and punchy riffs, with strange reverberating feedback enhanced when he stroked his strings with a violin bow. Sometimes Page's guitar would echo Plant's screams. Backing the band was a tightly synchronized rhythm section of reliable John Paul Jones on bass or organ and John Bonham's relentless, thundering drums. The LP showcased the group's fusion of blues and rock, played with maximum intensity and volume. The hard rock sound was immediately commercially successful in both the UK and US. It peaked at number 10 on the Billboard chart and earned gold certification by the RIAA in July 1969. A slightly later release in the UK saw the LP peak at number 6 on March 31st. Page was reluctant to release singles, so only Good Times, Bad Times, backed with Communication Breakdown, was released outside of the UK. Good Times, Bad Times only reached number 80 on the Billboard Hot 100. However, due to exposure on album-oriented rock radio stations and growth in popularity of the band, many of the album's tracks, such as Good Times, Bad Times, Dazed and Confused, and Communication Breakdown, have become classic rock radio staples. As the band developed further, Jimmy Page would write most of Led Zeppelin's music, particularly early in their career, while Robert Plant wrote most of the lyrics. John Paul Jones's keyboard-based compositions later became central to their music, which featured increasing experimentation. In their first full year, Led Zeppelin completed 4 U.S. and 4 U.K. concert tours and also released their second album, Led Zeppelin II. Recorded mostly on the road at various North American studios, it was an even greater commercial success than their first album. The LP was produced by Jimmy Page, and Eddie Kramer handled recording engineer duties. Led Zeppelin II reached the #1 chart position in both the U.S. and the U.K. The album further developed the mostly blues rock musical style established on their debut release, creating a sound that was heavy and hard, brutal and direct. The first album track, Whole Lotta Love, had a ponderous energy and sound, yet was precise and modulated by dynamic contrasts. Several of the 9 album tracks became classic rock staples. 35 years later, in 2004, Rolling Stone magazine's 500 Greatest Songs of All Time list included 3 from Led Zeppelin II. Whole Lotta Love at number 75, Heartbreaker at number 320, and Ramble On at number 433. Here's a sample from Heartbreaker. The band considered their albums to be complete listening experiences, and they were against re-editing of existing tracks for release as singles. Band manager Grant maintained an aggressive pro-album stance, particularly in the UK, where there were few radio and TV outlets for rock music. Without the band's consent, however, some songs would nevertheless be released as singles, particularly in the US. In 1969, an edited version of Whole Lotta Love was released as a single in the U.S. It reached number 4 in the Billboard chart in January 1970.
You need cooling, baby, I'm not fooling. I'm gonna send you back to schooling, way down inside. Honey, you need it. I'm gonna give you my love. I'm gonna give you my love. Oh, want a whole lot of love. 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 You've been learning, baby, I've been learning. All that good time, baby, I've been learning. Way down inside, honey, you need I'm gonna give you my love. I'm gonna give you my love. Oh, whole lot of love. Want a whole lot of love. Want a whole lot of love. Want a whole lot of love.
The group also increasingly shunned television appearances, citing their preference that their fans hear and see them in live concerts. Over the years following the release of their second album, Led Zeppelin completed several more U.S. tours. They played initially in clubs and ballrooms, and then in larger auditoriums as their popularity grew. Some early Led Zeppelin concerts lasted more than 4 hours with expanded and improvised live versions of their repertoire. It was during this period of intensive concert touring that the band and their roadies developed a reputation for off-stage excess. In 1970, Page and Plant stayed at a remote cottage in Wales called Brwn yr Aur. They wrote several songs which would ultimately result in a more acoustic style. The new songs were strongly influenced by folk and Celtic music and showcased the band's versatility. Much of the recording work was done at Headley Grange, a country house, using the Rolling Stones mobile studio. Additional sessions were held at Island Studios and Olympic Studios in London. The range of instruments played by the band was greatly enhanced on this album, with John Paul Jones especially emerging as a talented multi-instrumentalist, playing a wide range of keyboard and stringed instruments, including various synthesizers, mandolin, and double bass, in addition to his usual bass guitar. As with prior albums, Page served as producer on the album. Mixing was done by Andy Johns and Terry Manning. Page said that the group had 16 tracks to choose from for release on Led Zeppelin III. They settled on 10. On October 5, 1970, Led Zeppelin III was released. It reached number 1 in the US and UK charts, but its stay would be the shortest of their first 5 albums. In the UK, the LP remained on the chart for 40 weeks. In the US, it remained on the chart for 19 weeks and was certified gold on October 8, 1970. The album's rich acoustic sound initially received mixed reactions, with critics and fans surprised at the turn from the primarily electric arrangements of the first 2 albums. Consequently, LP sales lagged after this initial peak. The LP's opening track, Immigrant's Song, was released as a U.S. single in November 1970 against the band's wishes. Immigrant's Song reached number 16 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. Another significant album track was Since I've Been Loving You. That power blues song features John Paul Jones providing a great organ backing behind Plant and Page. Audio engineer Terry Manning called Page's solo in the song the best rock guitar solo of all time. In 1998, 2 magazines ranked Jimmy's solo in Since I've Been Loving You among the 100 greatest solos of all time. It was ranked number 8 in the UK's Guitarist magazine and number 53 in the US Guitar World magazine. During the 1970s, Led Zeppelin reached new heights of commercial and critical success that made them one of the most influential groups of the era, eclipsing their earlier accomplishments. The band's image also changed as the members began to wear elaborate, flamboyant clothing. Led Zeppelin enhanced their show by using things such as lasers, professional light shows, and mirror balls. They began traveling in a private jet airliner, a Boeing 720 nicknamed the Starship. They rented out entire sections of hotels and became the subject of frequently repeated stories of debauchery. One involved John Bonham riding a motorcycle through a rented floor in the Chateau Marmont, while another involved the destruction of a room in the Tokyo Hilton. Although Led Zeppelin developed a reputation for trashing their hotel suites and throwing television sets out of windows, some suggest that these tales have been exaggerated. The real culprits were often tour manager Richard Ricardo Cole and the road crew. Earlier, I mentioned the band's occasional use of the English country house Headley Grange for recording. For the band's Led Zeppelin IV album, the band returned to Headley Grange. Robert Plant wrote most of the lyrics to Stairway to Heaven at Headley Grange in a single day. The opening track of the album, Black Dog, was named after a black Labrador retriever which was found hanging around Headley Grange during recording. John Paul Jones wrote the main riff for Black Dog. Jones added complex rhythm changes to Black Dog, resulting in a clever pattern that turns back on itself more than once, crossing between time signatures as it does. Because the group had a difficult time with the turnaround, drummer John Bonham kept the song moving by playing it straight through as if there was no turnaround. On the final track of the album, When the Levee Breaks, John Bonham's drumming became the defining feature of the song. Headley Grange is a 3-story stone structure with a cavernous hallway. To obtain Bonham's unique drum sound, he was recorded drumming in the lobby of Headley Grange using 2 microphones suspended high above a flight of stairs. The band had wanted to release the 4th album with no title or information, but Atlantic wanted something on the cover. So it was agreed to have 4 symbols to represent both the 4 members of the band and that it was the 4th album. So the LP has been variously referred to as Led Zeppelin IV, Untitled, 4, or due to the 4 symbols appearing on the record label as 4 Symbols or Zoso. Led Zeppelin released their 4th album on November 8, 1971. Led Zeppelin IV entered the UK chart at number 10, rising to number 1 the following week and spent a total of 90 weeks on the chart. In the US, it was Led Zeppelin's best-selling album, but just missed topping the Billboard album chart, peaking at number 2. With 37 million copies sold as of 2014, Led Zeppelin IV is one of the best-selling albums in history, and its massive popularity cemented Led Zeppelin's status as superstars in the 1970s. By 2021, it has sold 24 million copies in the U.S. alone. The song Black Dog was released as a single on December 2, 1971, in continental Europe, the United States, and Australia. As was their practice, the UK did not receive the single.
Hey, mama said the way you move gonna make you sweat, gonna make you groove. The way you shake that thing gonna make you burn, gonna make you stay. Hey, baby, when you walk that way, watch honey drip, can't keep away.
Black Dog reached number 10 in Australia, number 11 in Canada, and number 15 on the Billboard Hot 100. When you think of their fourth album, the final track, Stairway to Heaven, inevitably comes to mind. That masterpiece was one of the most popular songs of the decade. The song begins with Page's acoustic feel and delicate Plant vocals. As the song progresses, Page builds the intensity, gradually adding drums and ultimately climaxing with Plant screaming over the distorted guitar. Stairway to Heaven, never released as a single, was the most requested and most played song on American rock radio in the 1970s. In 2004, Rolling Stone magazine's 500 Greatest Songs of All Time list included two from Led Zeppelin 4, Stairway to Heaven at number 31 and Black Dog at number 294. The group followed up the album's release with tours of the UK, Australasia, North America, Japan, and the UK again from late 1971 through early 1973. By 1972, Led Zeppelin had achieved sustained commercial and critical success on both their studio albums and live shows. After touring Australia in April 1972, the group decided to take the mobile studio to Mick Jagger's country estate called Stargroves. Both Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones had installed home studios, which allowed them to arrive at Stargroves with complete compositions and arrangements. In March 1973, Atlantic released the band's fifth studio album, Houses of the Holy. It featured further experimentation by the band, who expanded their use of synthesizers and mellotron orchestration. The album was produced by Page and mixed by Eddie Kramer. Although critical response was mixed, Houses of the Holy became a commercial success. It topped the UK charts and spent 39 weeks on the Billboard 200 Albums chart, including 2 weeks at number 1. The album was number 4 on Billboard magazine's Top Albums of 1973 year-end chart. Several songs from the LP would become fixtures in the group's live set, including The Song Remains the Same, The Rain Song, and No Quarter. In particular, No Quarter became a centerpiece of Led Zeppelin concerts, being played at virtually every show the band performed until 1980. During live performances of the song, John Paul Jones frequently improvised on keyboards and performed parts of classical music, especially Rachmaninoff melodies. Page and John Bonham would always join Jones later in the song. In 1999, the Houses of the Holy LP received a diamond certification by the RIAA for at least 10 million copies sold in the U.S. In 2020, the album was ranked at number 278 on Rolling Stone's 2020 list of the 500 greatest albums of all time. The band's subsequent concert tour of North America in 1973 broke records for attendance as they consistently filled large auditoriums and stadiums. At Tampa Stadium in Florida, they played to 56,800 fans, breaking the record set by the Beatles' 1965 Shea Stadium concert. 3 sold-out shows at Madison Square Garden in New York City were filmed for a motion picture, but the theatrical release of this project was delayed until 1976. John Paul Jones accepted his low-key role in the band with good grace. He was the quiet one, doing few interviews and being mostly stationary on stage while all the attention was on Page and Plant. However, following exhausting tours and extended periods of time away from his family, by late 1973, Jones was beginning to show signs of disillusionment. He considered quitting Led Zeppelin to spend more time with his family, but was talked into returning by the band's manager, Peter Grant. Jones joked that he was interested in becoming the choirmaster at Winchester Cathedral, which was reported as fact in several sources. In 1974, Led Zeppelin took a break from touring and launched their own record label, Swan Song, named after an unreleased song. In addition to using Swan Song as a vehicle to promote their own albums, the band expanded the label's roster, signing artists such as Bad Company and The Pretty Things. The label remained successful while Led Zeppelin existed, but folded less than 3 years after they disbanded. This concludes another episode of Rock and Roll Flashback Podcasts. As mentioned in my intro, this episode is part 1 of a 2-part podcast. Be sure to check out the companion podcast, Led Zeppelin Part 2, to hear some of the highlights, honors, and awards of Led Zeppelin's career from 1974 onward. So for now, I'm Jumpin John McDermott.
And until next time,
rock on, rock on, rock on, rock on, rock on, rock on.
Working from 7 to 11 every night. Really makes life a drag. I don't think that's right. I've really been the best of food. I did what I could, yeah. Of course I love you, baby. How I love you, darling. How I love you, baby. My love you, little girl. Baby, since I've been loving you, yeah. I'm about to lose my war and mind. Ah, yeah. Everybody trying to tell me that it didn't mean me no good. I've been trying. Lord, let me tell I really did the best I could. I've been working from 7 to 11 every night. I said it kind of makes life a drag, 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 drag. Lord, yeah, that ain't right. Now. Since I've been loving you, I'm about to lose my working mind. my tears, they fell like rain.